1, 2. Check 2. 1, 2.
Good morning, Virginia Democrats. Thank you all for attending our first ever virtual convention. Boy, do I love conventions. Trading stories, the funny hats, the campaign buttons, embellishing stories, having a bourbon or two with some friends. It's all just so much fun. And I'll probably have a bourbon or two later this evening after we finish anyway. Now, those of you who watched last night, who joined us last evening, know we had a little hiccup, and there were storms here around us in Richmond. And I guess I could blame it on the Russians or the Chinese or Donald Trump, but it's as simple as this. Mercury is in retrograde. But here we are this morning, and I thank you all for joining in. Our Secretary, Isaac Sarver, told me coming up here today that Senator Creed Deeds said rain means good luck. So we're just going to go with that. Now, while we can't be together in person, I'm so glad to have the chance to connect virtually. I want to start off by thanking everyone who's been a part of our party these last years. And if you have recently joined us, we welcome you and we need you. And a special thank you to our steering committee, who helped our wonderful staff and me pivot to this virtual process that we are going through. It's because of your hard work that we've come so far and turned Virginia blue. You knocked on the doors, made the phone calls, organized the events, and did the work to flip the General Assembly and give us the trifecta. You are the blue wave that sent Republican congressmen packing in 2018 and gave us statewide wins in 2017. We're so lucky here in Virginia to have so many Democrats, Democratic leaders, that it would take too long for me to recognize everyone. But I'm really excited about the amazing lineup of speakers from across the Commonwealth and the country that we have for you today. It's thanks to you that our Democratic Party is stronger than ever. Our congressional district conventions were a model for other state parties. This state convention is being streamed by thousands of people. And meanwhile, the Republicans are arguing about how to run drive-through conventions and making headlines for being chaotic and bigoted. Their candidates can't even file the right forms to run for office, while Virginia Democrats in Congress have passed bills to help our veterans, expand rural broadband, and keep our economy afloat. We have taken decisive action to show the country what Virginia's values are. From the ERA to striking racist and sexist language from the law books, from passing historic LGBTQ anti-discrimination laws, to expanding access to the voting booth, protecting the environment, and reducing gun violence, Virginia Democrats continue to make history. We're a strong party, a party that lives up to our values, and a party that fights for change. Now, I know that times are tough right now. Folks are either cooped up in their homes watching virtual events like this, dealing with income or illness, or maybe both, are out protesting and demanding change. All of our plans and expectations for what this election year would look like is enough to make your head spin. But one thing has been constant. Virginia Democrats are the most organized and dedicated Democrats in the country. We've got our work cut out for us this year, but as usual, Virginia Democrats are up to the task. We do have a record of facing challenges head on and staying focused on the goal at hand. And there is no more important goal than electing Joe Biden and putting an end to 4 years of bigoted, racist Donald Trump, who is operating a criminal enterprise out of the White House. We will regain the trust of voters and the world. So let's double down, keep our eyes on the prize, and know that the work we do in the next 136 days is the most important of our lifetime. Together, we can do it. Now, I'd like to turn the program over to Richmond City Councilman, Dr. Michael Jones. Dr. Jones?
Good morning, everybody. This is a great day. In my faith tradition, every morning we simply say, "This is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad in it." With a pandemic, protests all throughout this country, seeking and desiring change, I believe this is a great time to be blue. I think this is a great time to be a Democrat, especially because we want to see a change across this country. But more importantly, I believe it starts right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm proud to serve the people of Richmond, Virginia. I'm proud to be a Democrat, and I'm also proud to be a man of faith. Let's pray. Eternal God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for everyone that is here, everyone that is assembled, for those that believe in God, for those that don't believe, for those of different faith traditions, and those who seek spirituality in their own process. We recognize and respect it all. We know that change needs to come, not just progress, but victory, not just one people, but all people, that we might be the beautiful community that was spoken of so many years ago. God, we ask that you bless this congregation. We ask that you would bless this assembly, that we might seek a better way to love differently, to write legislation differently, to activate differently, and to engage differently. Give us wisdom, give us insight, but most importantly, with love, give us courage. Courage to do the right thing. Courage to speak when others are silent. Courage to stand when everyone else is sitting. Courage to be who our parents taught us to be. People of dignity, people that walk with respect, people that walk with their heads high, and even individuals who are differently abled are able to express who they are, who they choose to love, and where they choose to live. We choose Virginia. We choose Democrat, and we choose to be who we were created to be. We ask all of this in your name, and we simply say shalom and amen.
Thank you, Dr. Jones, for that inspiring and wonderful invocation. Thank you also for your service to the community, your leadership on City Council, and everything that you do every single day to help Democrats and Virginians. Now, the next part of the program, I'm going to ask for our Secretary, Isaac Sarver, to come up for the roll call. He was going to be joined this morning with, as I like to say, my wing woman and First Vice Chair Gayleen Canoyton. But she is, for those of you who saw last night, she was with us on a Zoom, but she's in Michigan. Her mother got her heavenly wings a couple days ago. So Gayleen's with her and her son Michael's there. So please, give her a round of love. And Gayleen, if you're watching this, we're with you. We love you. And what I've read about your mother, I can see where you have your commitment to justice and fairness. So Isaac, I'm going to turn it over to you right now. There.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I begin, I do want to say one last round of thank yous to the committee chairs, the congressional district chairs, and the state party staff over the past several weeks and months as they've worked hard to credential the delegates and the delegations that we're going to hear from today. And as Susan said, I'm Isaac Sarver. I have had the privilege the past 3 years of serving as your state party secretary and the secretary for this convention. Now, CD chairs, I'm going to ask for your delegation numbers from your specific district. You'll report how many Biden and Sanders delegates, and in some cases Warren delegates, you were allocated. And we'll begin the roll call with the first CD, Matt Rowe.
Hello and good morning to all the great Virginia Democrats joining the state convention this morning virtually for the first time. My name is Matt Rowe, chair of the 1st Congressional District from Gainesville to Gloucester, from Rockville to Reedville, Today in our delegation, we have 128 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden and 47 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders. Go Virginia Democrats!
Thank you, Matt. And from the 2nd District, Sandra Brandt.
Hi, I'm Sandra Brandt, Chair of the 2nd Congressional District Democratic Committee, which includes the world's largest naval base, historic Jamestown, and long stretch of sandy beaches in Virginia Beach. We are the home of Governor Ralph Northam and Congresswoman Eileen, who we will send back to Congress on November 3rd. I'm pleased to announce the 2nd Congressional District delegation has 110 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden, 48 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders, and 1 delegate for Senator Elizabeth Warren. Thank you, and have a great convention.
Good to see you virtually, Sandra. Next, we'll move on to the 3rd District, Delegate Clint Jenkins.
Madam Chair, the 3rd Congressional District, home to one of the greatest congressional figures of our time. A leader in the midst of the COVID-19 era, and a beacon for those crying out for justice. The home of the Honorable Congressman Bobby Scott. I am pleased to announce that the 3rd Congressional District delegation has 147 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden and 47 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders.
From the 4th CD, Delegate LaCherice Aird.
From your favorite 4th Congressional District, home of the phenomenal United States Senator Tim Kaine and former governor here in the Commonwealth, the forceful United States Representative Donald McEachin, and so many others, I'm pleased to report that the 4th Congressional District has 145 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden and 52 delegates for Bernie Sanders. Enjoy the convention.
Thank you, Delegate. And from the 5th District, Suzanne Long.
Hi there, I'm Suzanne Long, and I'm sheltering in place in beautiful Madison County. On behalf of the vast and diverse 5th Congressional District, home of our newest delegate, Sally Hudson, home of a great district-wide team of hardworking and committed Democrats, and finally, home of soon-to-be former Republican Congressman Denver Bigfoot Riggleman, Madam Chairwoman and delegates. I'm pleased to announce that the 5th Congressional District delegation has 123 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden, 35 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders, and 10 delegates for Senator Elizabeth Warren. Go Who's!
Thank you, Suzanne. Now I'm pleased to call on the 6th District Chair, Kim Crump.
From the 6th Congressional District, home of Democrats of vision, values, and volunteerism, and rich in mountains, rivers, and valleys, we are excited and 6 CDs strong to elect Biden, Warner, and Betts this November. I'm pleased to announce that the 6th Congressional District delegation has 97 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden, 48 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders, and 4 delegates for Senator Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you, Kim. And now from the 7th District, Abby Easter.
From the 7th Congressional District, home of Virginia Legislative Black Caucus Chair Lamont Bagby and State Senator Ghazala Hashmi, where every delegate and every Democrat is working diligently to elect Joe Biden, re-elect Mark Warner, and to return our fabulous and very special Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger to Congress, I'm pleased to announce that the 7th Congressional District delegation has 124 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden and 52 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Abby. And now from the 8th District, Margot Horner.
Horner, chair of the 8th Congressional District. The 8th District is home to our senior Senator Mark Warner, Congressman Don Beyer, Senate Majority Leader Dick Saslaw, House Majority Leader Charnel Herring, House Democratic Caucus Chair Rip Sullivan, and many other Democratic office holders. And we are so very proud to have many military veterans and their families in our district. A special shout out for outstanding party service and party plan and rules guidance to all Democrats. My friend and longtime Virginia DNC member, Frank Leone. I am pleased to announce that the 8th District has 141 delegates for Vice President Biden, 60 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders, and 28 delegates for Senator Elizabeth Warren. Participating in this virtual state convention in this challenging time of global health crisis and economic uncertainty is a decisive way to demonstrate that we are looking forward, along with other Virginians and Americans, to the day when we will overcome COVID-19 and Donald Trump. May our Virginia Democratic families stay safe and well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Margot. And I'm now pleased to call upon the district I was born and raised in, the Fighting Ninth, Gary Hancock.
Greetings from Virginia's great Southwest, the Fighting Ninth, the home of Delegate Chris Hurst and Senator John Edwards. I am pleased to announce that the 9th Congressional District has 81 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden, 47 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders, and 4 delegates for Senator Elizabeth Warren. Have a great convention.
Thank you, Gary. It's good to hear from you. Now from the 10th District, I'm pleased to call on Zach Prakowski.
From the 10th Congressional District, home of Attorney General Mark Herring and Congressman Jennifer Wexton, I'm pleased to announce that we have 141 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden and 65 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders.
And last but not least, from the 11th District, Chair Bob Haley.
Good morning. From the 11th Congressional District, the home of Congressman Jerry Connolly, the home of Speaker Eileen Philicorn, and from the CD that produces and leads year after year with winning margins for Virginia candidates, we send many, many thanks to the DPVA staff, the volunteers, and delegates for their efforts in producing this great virtual convention. I am pleased to announce that the 11th Congressional District delegation has 142 delegates for Vice President Joe Biden and 73 delegates for Senator Bernie Sanders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Madam Chair, I'm proud to report that the Democratic Party of Virginia Convention has a delegation 2,000 strong, with 1,379 Biden delegates, 574 Bernie Sanders delegates, and 47 Warren delegates to vote in this year's 2020 state convention. And with that, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. It's great to have a full delegation, and I understand we have a lot of guests that are listening as well. So it's an exciting day. Now, before I pass this gavel of this 2020 state convention over to our permanent chair, we are very excited about our special guest that is joining us this morning. Now, as I said before, we're so lucky to have so many great leaders in Virginia, especially in our congressional delegation, with Mark Warner, who's up for re-election this year, Tim Kaine, our fantastic other congressional leaders. But we have so many in the South now, too, which is really exciting. And like many of you, I became familiar with our guest this morning, one of Florida's congressional leaders, Val Demings, during the impeachment of Donald Trump. And boy, was she impressive. I have to say, anytime that I heard her voice come on, I stopped and listened. She was one of several impeachment managers, and when Val Demings speaks, you want to listen to what she has to say. So Congresswoman Demings, welcome, and I'm turning it over to you now. Thanks for joining us.
Well, let me say good morning, Virginia Democrats. What a joy it is for me to join you today during this very important time as we join together, as we prepare for the road ahead. I want to thank your dynamic party chair for the outstanding work that she is doing and will continue to do, and other party leadership. I certainly have to recognize the amazing congressional leaders that I have the absolute honor of serving with every day from Virginia. I'm proud and honored to call them my colleagues. It's 2020. Virginia Democrats, isn't this the year that we have been talking about and the year that we have been waiting for? But I, like you, have to say, what a year we are having. But if I had to have a theme this morning, as we think about the road ahead, this is the question that I would ask everyone under the sound of my voice to ask yourself. Where would we be without the Democratic Party? Where would we be without Democrats fighting for our values and working hard to protect them? I have to tell you, I know without a shadow of a doubt that Democrats are the only firewall between what we hold precious, our values, and complete foolishness coming out of the White House and on too many occasions, the State House. This year, we've gone through an impeachment trial as a result of America being basically bargained away for political gain. In 2020, we're going through COVID-19, and that's why we are gathering today virtually. But like good Democrats, we always will find a way to conduct the business of our party. COVID-19, something we've never seen before, which has required all of us to do some things that we have never done before. In 2020, we find ourselves going through civil unrest in all 50 states because of the brutal, senseless murder of Mr. George Floyd, a name we had never heard of, but certainly now we'll never forget his name. America is in crisis. And as you well know, Democrats, we have a total absence of leadership at the top. Matter of fact, as America deals with racism, discrimination, as America is on fire, we know that the president is walking around pouring gasoline on every situation. Where is he? We have a total absence of leadership. Now, Democrats, Virginia Democrats, I understand that that would be enough to discourage anyone. I get it. Sometimes we get weary. Sometimes we get tired. Sometimes we're just plain old discouraged and frustrated. But we must continue to do as the Speaker of the House loves to say. As Democrats, we don't agonize. You know what we do. We organize. Was 2016 the most important election of our lifetime? Remember that it seems like it was ages ago, but we asked the question, is this the most important election of our lifetime? And the answer was yes, of course, certainly it was. But that was before we knew what 4 years of the current guy in the White House felt like. I came today to tell you, Virginia Democrats, that 2020, without a doubt, is the most important election of our lifetime. This is the one. Think about it. We're fighting for the rule of law. to send a strong message that no one is above the law, but you know what? No one is beneath the law either. We're fighting to protect our precious democracy on which we build the American dream. Yes, we're fighting against gun violence. I am convinced we are truly fighting for the soul of America. And we do have a clear choice. Joe Biden is without a doubt the one who shares our agenda. He shares our values. And we know this because we've watched and we've listened to what he has already done. And he is being joined and has been joined by some phenomenal leaders. When we think about where would we be, we thank God for the amazing work of Senator Bernie Sanders and the outstanding work of Senator Elizabeth Warren. Where would we be in this country without amazing Democrats fighting for what we hold precious and being the firewall, fighting to protect our seniors, fighting to make sure that our youth thrive and survive? Joe Biden has been the one who supported environmental legislation long before it was even popular to say the words climate control. And we know that he has a much needed plan for criminal justice reform and economic development, not just in a few communities, not just the 1%ers of the privileged few, but in all communities. No community will be left behind. Democrats, where would we be without our party fighting against hateful, discriminatory, lawless policies? And Virginia, I know that you have been fighting the good fight because I've watched you fight the good fight. So let's get this done and turn the White House into a wonderful, beautiful, powerful shade of blue. God bless you and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman Demings, for joining us this morning and inspiring us and lifting us up. And gosh, I feel like so ready to go to work right now. But we've got a little bit of stuff to fix here. But thank you again so very much for being with us. And Isaac, Mr. Secretary, thank you and all of our wonderful, hardworking CD chairs, city county chairs, central committee, and state delegates for getting us to this point today. Now, before I kind of virtually hand the gavel over, I want to just give you all a little bit of history of why we're doing what we're doing, the way we're doing it. 4 years ago, I had the honor of being your permanent chair for the state convention. This year, I have a bigger honor. I did some research and confirmed that protocol for the state convention is to have the Democratic Speaker of the House of Delegates fill the role of permanent chair. Now, the last time Virginia Democrats held a state convention with a Democratic Speaker was in 1997, when we had a state convention for the gubernatorial and statewide races. Don Byer will remember that because he was our nominee then. And the late Tom Moss was speaker. So it's really historic and exciting that here 23 years later, that I can proudly and virtually hand the gavel over to our speaker. Now, it's extra special because this is a gavel that Speaker Fillicorn gave me on the eve of her assuming the speakership. And so since you can't be here with us today, Eileen, but really glad you're here virtually, I'm going to hand it virtually over to my assistant, Knox Dendy. And then it is my pleasure to turn the convention over to our permanent chairman, the first female speaker in the Virginia House of Delegates, Eileen Fillicorn.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Swecker. I so appreciate that. And thank you for your friendship and for your passionate lifetime service to the Democratic Party of Virginia. You really have done an exceptional job as chairwoman over the past 5 years, and you turned Virginia into a truly blue Commonwealth. And I also want to thank you personally for your friendship. You and your team have outdone yourselves in putting together this virtual state convention under such unprecedented times. And I too wish I could be with you in person, but it's great to be able to see you this way. I hope everybody had a meaningful Juneteenth yesterday. This week, I was so proud to stand with Governor Ralph Northam, Pharrell Williams, and leaders and colleagues from across Virginia when the governor announced that the Commonwealth will be moving forward and making Juneteenth a state holiday and a paid day off for state employees. I then declared yesterday, Juneteenth, a paid day off for all House of Delegate employees. And while this is just one measure in our efforts to root out systemic racism in the Commonwealth, it's a positive step, and a positive step that we will now take officially to celebrate the holiday that truly represents freedom for all. While it's unfortunate that we can't all be in person, I know it's challenging for all of us, we're doing our part to honor the lives of the Virginians that we have so sadly lost to COVID-19 by following social distancing guidelines and responsibly meeting virtually today, as the Congresswoman mentioned as well. It is my distinct privilege and honor to preside over the 2020 Democratic Party of Virginia State Convention. Serving as Speaker of the House of Delegates has been the honor of my life, and wielding the gavel for this gathering as well is also uniquely special to me, and I say thank you. Many of our great delegates to the convention were not even born in 1997, so that's fascinating to think about. That was the last time that Virginia had a Democratic speaker during our state convention. So just me being here and presiding over this convention really shows how much incredible and historic progress that this party has made. I want to first be clear on what is really close in all of our hearts and minds right now. And there's no question that George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor should be alive. The racial inequities in our nation that led to their deaths should have been eliminated a long, long time ago. And I stand with Virginians across the Commonwealth who are angry, hurt, tired, frustrated, and truly yearning for change. The Virginia General Assembly is committed to taking immediate steps to begin to eliminate the systemic and institutionalized racism in our economy, in our healthcare system, in our criminal justice system, and truly throughout American life. As an elected leader, I know it's important. It's important that I listen. It's important that I understand the pain experienced by African Americans and people of color. But you know what? More importantly, it's my duty as a leader to act. And that is why the House of Delegates will act swiftly to address police and criminal justice reform in the Commonwealth during the upcoming special session later this summer. And let me tell you, this special session will just be the start. We are all committed to addressing the fundamental and institutional issues that create the inequality in our education system, as I mentioned, our healthcare system, in the economy, so that all communities are safer. You know why? Because we're Democrats, because we do what is right. This is a fight that we must all be in together. And Virginia Democrats, we are here to elect Joe Biden President of the United States. And we are here to re-elect Senator Mark Warner. We are here to protect our incredible freshman congresswomen, Eileen, Abigail Spanberger, Jennifer Wexton. And we are here to flip even more Republican congressional seats throughout the Commonwealth. We know how far to the extreme Virginia Republicans have gone. One Republican congressman in the Commonwealth already booted out of office by his own party for officiating a same-sex wedding. We are all here because we know that change is needed in Washington. And we must, as Vice President Biden says, quote unquote, restore the soul of our nation. The immorality and the incompetence of Donald Trump has cost our country dearly, both at home and abroad. But I believe strongly that winning elections does have consequences. By winning this November, we can right the ship in Washington. Electing Joe Biden, maintaining our Democratic majority in the United States House, and flipping the United States Senate blue will mean new leadership. It'll mean new laws and a better country. If you don't believe that one election can make that much of a difference, just look at what we have done here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Last year, I had the opportunity to see so many of you on the campaign trail as we fought for the majority. I asked you to knock doors. I asked you to make phone calls, to send postcards. And in return, I promised you that we would swiftly bring bold, decisive change to our Commonwealth. And I am proud to say, because of your hard work, because of your dedication, we elected majorities in both the Virginia House and the Senate, clearing the 20-year Republican hold on power in our state legislature. When we campaigned last year, we said, yes, we will. When we won in November, we said, yes, we can. And I am proud to report to you, because of the historic amount of legislation passed by our new Democratic majorities this year, I am proud to say, yes, we did. Yes, we did pass the most sweeping gun safety legislation in the history of the Commonwealth, making Virginia safer by keeping firearms out of the hands of those who would do harm to themselves or others. Yes, we did expand and protect voting rights, Virginia, including repealing the voter ID law, allowing 45 days of no excuse absentee voting, and replacing the Lee Jackson state holiday with one that we can all be so proud of, Election Day. Yes, we did increase Virginia's minimum wage and repeal the ban on collective bargaining for public employees. Yes, we did pass the most consequential piece of climate change legislation in Virginia's history, now putting the Commonwealth on a path to carbon neutrality. Yes, we did begin to make our criminal justice system fairer by decriminalizing marijuana, ending suspension of driver's licenses due to owed court fines, and tackling the school to prison pipeline in Virginia. And this summer, in our special session, yes, we will expand on that progress. Yes, we did pass the Virginia Values Act, which will finally make it illegal to discriminate against somebody in Virginia because of who they love. And yes, we did make history when we became the 38th and final state needed to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. And with the help of President Biden and the newly elected Democratic United States Senate, women finally will be enshrined in the Constitution. We achieved long overdue progress and created change in Richmond. We can do the same in Washington, D.C., and it starts with all of us, all the work that we can do here today. Joe Biden is a good man who has battled through grief and personal tragedy to lift Americans up as a senator, and then for 8 years as President Barack Obama's vice president. Electing Joe Biden president does more than just removing the dark cloud over the White House. Yes, by electing Joe Biden and Mark Warner and our entire Democratic ticket, we will restore the soul of our nation this November. Yes, we will take on the NRA nationally and address the epidemic of gun violence, because we know that thoughts and prayers are not enough when what we really need are votes and laws. Yes, we will protect and expand high-quality, affordable healthcare for Americans and end the current administration's attack on the Affordable Care Act. Yes, we will put working families first in our COVID-19 recovery and deliver for the middle class in America. Yes, we will pass federal laws that tackle the systemic racial inequities that have burdened our communities for far too long. Yes, we will elect a president in Joe Biden who is committed to investing in small businesses, in infrastructure and innovation. Someone who will ensure that small business relief funds actually reach deserving mom and pops stores. Yes, we will address climate change, and we will restore the United States as a global leader by rejoining the Paris Agreement. And yes, we will, once again, welcome people from every part of the world, because we know that the United States is a nation of immigrants. Our nation's incredible history is built on the energy, on the ideas, and the aspirations of immigrants. My fellow Virginians, this year the stakes are higher than ever before. This November, we will elect Joe Biden as the next president of the United States and put an end to the temporary embarrassment on Pennsylvania Avenue. We will re-elect our senior senator, Senator Mark Warner, and just watch what he will be able to do when he is once again in the majority. We will re-elect and elect new Democratic members of Congress all across the Commonwealth. And we will send Donald Trump back to his new home state of Florida. Virginia will once again do our part. We will go blue this election year. Thank you so much for the honor to preside over this convention. Next up, we are going to hear from my good friend, my former boss, an amazing senator, the Commonwealth's senior senator, Mark Warner. Senator Warner has been at the forefront of the fight to secure our elections and fight foreign interference, and I am so glad that he can join us today. Senator Warner, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. And boy, Eileen, does that have a nice ring to it. I know I speak on behalf of all of our fellow Virginia Democrats, how proud we are of you, what dignity and grace you brought to the role of the Speaker. And as you've just gone through with elections make differences, when you are able to take back the House and Democrats take back the Senate, the remarkable amount of change that you've brought about in Richmond, we couldn't be prouder of you. Let me start by again welcoming all of the Virginia Democrats to this virtual convention. I hope that everyone is safe and your families are safe as we go through these remarkable times. I am broadcasting to you today from my kitchen, where some of you may have seen I maybe created close to a public health nuisance a couple of months back. This was the place where I created the magic on my now infamous tuna melt. And let me again be clear, I would not urge anyone to try that at home. I am listening to Congresswoman Dennings, Eileen, Susan, and some of our speakers this morning. I am so proud of Virginia Democrats, and we are a big family. This is a family that I've been proud to be part of over the last 30 years. Proud to have been Doug Wilder's campaign manager on his historic race back in 1989. Proud to have had the title of being chairperson of the Virginia Democratic Party. Proud to have been your standard bearer in a unsuccessful race back in 1996 against my very good friend, John Warner. Particularly proud of the fact that you entrusted me and my dear friend, Tim Kaine, as your candidate for governor and lieutenant governor, respectively, back in 2001. And with our victory there, that started in the 21st century Virginia Democrats' comeback across the Commonwealth and across the country. And as I think over the last 4 years, there is so much work that you've done, so much that we should be proud of. The fact that in 2016, we were smart enough in Virginia to vote for Hillary Clinton. In 2017, for the first time in literally decades, Virginia Democrats swept all 3 statewide offices. In 2018, we picked up three great new congresswomen in Elaine and Abigail and Jennifer. And in 2019, we made Eileen Fillicorn speaker, the first woman speaker in Virginia's history. All of that because of the incredible hard work that you who are watching and participating in this convention, and literally millions of other Virginians, the work we put in to make positive change in our Commonwealth. Now, I am very proud, I guess officially today, to take, to once again be your standard bearer for United States Senate. And I accept your nomination. I'm proud to receive it. And I promise you, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we hold this Virginia Senate seat as a Democratic Senate seat. My hope as well is that this is going to be the year, as everyone has indicated, where we're going to elect Joe Biden, where we're going to make either get rid of Mitch McConnell, or at the very least make him minority leader. And we're going to be able, I think, right here in Virginia, to build upon our now majority Democratic delegation in the House. So I really thank you for the work that you will do in these coming months. I know the topic that's probably on most of our minds right now is the effect of the pandemic. And in many ways, this pandemic, whether we're talking about a healthcare crisis, an economic crisis, exposure of some of the racial injustices and systemic racism that we've seen in our policing, in a way, this pandemic is almost like an X-ray. And I want to take a moment and speak about each of these three topics of how we have to grapple with the healthcare crisis, how we have to grapple with the racial injustice crisis, and how we have to grapple with the economic crisis, and why I'm asking you to help get me rehired so I can continue this work in the United States Senate. On the healthcare crisis, we know with close to 120,000 of our fellow Americans killed by the virus, when we've seen ineptness coming out of this administration in terms of the managing and supply of the PPE and testing, we can and must do better in this country. We need to make sure that we make the CDC, once again, the envy of public health organizations around the world, rather than constantly being behind as we've been with the coronavirus. It's why I've taken the lead amongst all the Democrats in the Senate in making sure that we try to build upon and expand the Affordable Care Act, that we preclude the kind of junk sale of junk healthcare plans that are out there, in many cases, luring in Virginians, oftentimes Virginians of color, to buy healthcare plans that when you then get sick, don't provide any kind of health insurance at all. It's why I want to continue the fight as well to bring down the price of prescription drugs and allow the United States government to have the same ability to negotiate drug prices as other countries provide for their citizens. It's why I want to make sure as well that we build upon one of the silver linings that has come out of the pandemic, and that is greatly continue to expand telehealth opportunities all across Virginia and all across the country. We need to do so much more in healthcare, and if I'm reelected to the Senate, I'm going to continue the fight to expand the ACA and make sure that healthcare is actually affordable for all Virginians and all Americans. The second part of what the pandemic has exposed, with the murder of George Floyd and so many other Black Americans, is the absolute incumbent need to do comprehensive reform of our policing system. Last night, I was at the First Baptist Church in Vienna, where we held a celebration, but also a reflection upon Juneteenth. Part of that reflection and part of nothing could be a better homage to the notion of Juneteenth than to pass comprehensive police reform. It's why I'm very proud to have been an original co-sponsor, along with Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, in the Justice and Policing Act. And it's my intent that we get a chance, I hope, even this week, to vote on that legislation and to try to make it the law of the land so that all Americans can feel that they're going to be treated fairly, justly, and do not have to see police officers and have a sense of confidence rather than what we have right now, a sense of fear for too many of our fellow Americans. We also need, this pandemic has exposed the enormous economic inequalities in our system and in our country. It's why I'm working real time. And this week again, we'll lay out a major plan to invest literally billions of dollars in Black-owned banks and community development financial institutions. I believe that we can make capitalism fairer and better, but you can't make capitalism fairer or better, particularly for Black Americans and Brown Americans, unless they have access to capital. And I commit to make sure that in the next COVID package, we make a major investment in those institutions that will lend and provide that capital that's needed in minority communities and low-income communities across America. It's why, as well, I want to get rehired to this job to do much more major changes to our economic system. As some of you know, over the last few years, I've been working on, candidly, a whole new theory of how our economic system ought to work. I'm not going to go through it all right now, but very briefly, let me talk about 3 points that I want to work on if you give me the honor of continuing as your senator. I want to make sure that no matter what kind of work you do in America, that with every hour you work, you also get benefits that go with that work. And those benefits ought to attach to you. They ought to be portable. Just as we've expanded unemployment insurance, we need to make sure that we greatly expand the whole social contract so that whether you're a part-time worker, a gig worker, with work, and the dignity of work should also come the dignity of benefits, health, retirement, and other support. I believe as well we need a fundamental transition on how we view investment in human beings. We have a tax code right now that is way too stacked towards investing in things rather than investing in people. Why should a company get a tax break for buying a robot, but for not training a human being to be more efficient than a robot? We need dramatic change in how we view investments in this country. And frankly, as somebody who benefited from our system, I think the capitalism that is running rampant in America today, often focused so much only on short-term profits, will ultimately destroy that economic engine of job growth. We need a capitalism in America that is about stakeholder capitalism, where yes, businesses can make money, but they can also invest in their people and in their communities. So I desperately want to be rehired to work on these items. I also want to build on the issue, and as Eileen mentioned, work that we've been doing on climate change. This really is, again, the issue of our time. And part of that work on climate change will be building on the legislation that I worked on for 3 years that passed with 73 votes this week in the Senate, where we finally have made the biggest investment in a generation in restoring our parks and expanding access to our land and water conservation fund. So that's another area where I want to get rehired and continue working. I also, as many of you know, am very active in the technology area. That was where my business was. We are seeing a transition to a digital economy. If we're going to make that transition fairly, we need to make sure that ubiquitous broadband is a reality no matter where you live in Virginia. We've got to make sure as well that we put appropriate rules on our social media companies. We should not be at the whim of Mark Zuckerberg in terms of what we see or hear, oftentimes being flat out lies if they come from the mouth of a politician on platforms like Facebook. I also want to continue to build on my work in the intelligence community, where I see the challenges of a rising China, but I realize we have to compete with that alternative vision, not only based upon our economic and military strength, but based upon our values and our strong alliances, things, again, that we know have disappeared under this president. When we talk about values, and I'll close in a moment, I was thinking back earlier this month, June 4th was the 31st anniversary of the protests in Tiananmen Square when the Chinese people rose up against the communist Chinese leadership. And the image that I most remember from those protests 31 years ago was of a young student standing in front of a tank, willing to sacrifice his life for freedom. Fast forward to maybe the most vivid memory that has come out of the protests that have appropriately taken place all across our country. 31 years later was the image of Donald Trump trying to use our military to clear away peaceful American protesters so we could walk over to St. John's Church, the very church where Lisa and I got married 31 years ago, to hold a Bible for a photo op. We are a better country. We are a better people than that kind of propaganda that came out of Donald Trump. One of the many, many reasons why we need to elect Joe Biden this year to make sure that we get a new occupant in the White House that will bring back the basic decency, the basic values that make us Democrats, but also make us Americans. I know in Virginia, with elections every year, we always say this is the most important year. But unequivocally, in my 65 years of life, there has never been an election that's more important. And while we've got wind at our back in Virginia, I also have to just acknowledge that I'm forever scarred by 2014. We cannot take anything for granted in Virginia. We know the Trump campaign will target Virginia. I know that my opponent will be decided on in the Republican primary on Tuesday, and they will say anything and do anything to try to take back this Senate seat. So we are going to need to work together on a coordinated campaign with Joe Biden at the top, me leading on the Senate level, and then great congressional incumbents, and I believe possibilities of picking up a couple of additional seats this year if we all turn out and tune in. It's going to be a different kind of election because of the good work of Eileen and Dick Saslaw and Governor Northam. We've got much better, more efficient voting laws in Virginia. We've got the possibility of voting by mail. We've got the possibility of early voting. We've got Election Day being a holiday. But it's going to mean, particularly with the challenges that the pandemic may still pose, is we're going to have to get our voters to the polls earlier. We're going to have to contact them in a potentially unorthodox ways, and we're going to need your time, your energy, and your support to get this done. Virginia Democrats, we've got a lot of fights in front of us, a lot of struggles in front of us, but if we look back on how far we've come over the last 2 decades, and we've seen the possibilities when we put Democrats in control in Richmond, if we can put Democrats back into control in the White House and in the United States Senate, I believe with all my heart, the best days for Virginia and the best days for our country are ahead of us. So let's get out there and win. Thank you for participating in today's state convention. And I look forward to actually doing this shortly with you as soon as possible in person. Thank you so much, Virginia Democrats.
Thank you so much, Senator Warner. And I know I speak for all of us here today that we so admire your leadership, your hard work, dedication, and we are going to work very hard and ensure that we send you back to Washington. So now it's my honor to introduce another man we all greatly admire. This man has served the United States admirably as senator, as President Obama's vice president for years, standing up for all the issues that matter so much to us. Here now we have the next president of the United States, Joe Biden. Mr. Vice President, take it away.
Thank you, Senator Warner. Mark, you've been a good friend a long time, and thank you for that introduction. Hello to Virginia Democrats. I wish that this year we were meeting under different circumstances, separated from one another by a deadly virus, more than 115,000 lives lost, millions out of work, and once again, the words, "I can't breathe," echoing in our ears as we watch the brutal, horrifying killing of George Floyd. It's outrageous and it's enraging. None of us can turn away. None of us can be silent. We're dealing with multiple national crises. We need real leadership right now. Leadership will bring everyone to the table. so we can take measures to root out systemic racism. It's time for us to take a hard look at uncomfortable truths. It's time for us to face the deep, open wound of systemic racism in this nation. Nothing about this is going to be easy or comfortable. But if we simply allow this wound to scab over without treating the underlying injury, we'll never truly heal, in my view. The very soul of America is at stake. That's why I'm running for president. That's why I stand united with every single Democrat behind our mission to beat Donald Trump and restore real leadership to the White House. But we have to do more than just beat Donald Trump. We have to keep the House and win the United States Senate back. We have to lead and to deliver meaningful change for people that are hurting all across this nation. And that means we need strong state parties to win up and down the ticket in their states. Virginia is an important battleground state for our campaign in 2020, and we have to do everything we can to make sure Democrats on the ballot across Virginia are successful in November. The stakes in this election have never been higher for our country. So we have to work harder than we ever have. We need to stand up as a nation, stand with the Black community, with communities of color, and come together as one America to deliver justice for all Americans. You know, if we stand together, we'll win the battle for the soul of this nation. We need to do this. We can do this. And with your help, we will do this. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. We're so lucky to have you, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. I know all of us are going to work tirelessly to make sure that that you win, that we win, and we take back the White House in November. Thank you again for being with us today. Now we have DPVA Resolutions Committee Chair KAINE Cooper is going to give us a brief resolution committee report. On to you, KAINE.
Hello, my name is KAINE Cooper, and I'm chair of the Prince Edward Democratic Committee. And this year I had the pleasure of serving as chair of the Resolutions Committee for the 2020 State Convention. I wanted to share a little bit with you about our process and how we got to this point. So 104 resolutions were submitted to the entire Resolutions Committee, and then we selected a subcommittee to go through those resolutions and deliver a package back to the full Resolutions Committee. That subcommittee consisted of 2 Bernie and 2 Biden delegates. Those people were Eric Payne, Karan Sains, Mary Lynn Tate, and Sandra Clausen. I wanted to give a special shout out to them. They spent over 15 hours on the phone deliberating and coming up with a package that we thought would be a great compromise for all Democrats in Virginia. So from this point forward, you all will vote. We have a package that consists of 64 resolutions. According to section 17.2 of the party plan, 60% of delegates must vote to pass this package. The package was passed from our Resolutions Committee with almost everyone voting in support. There were 2 people who had concerns about 2 specific resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, KAINE, and thank you and the Resolutions Committee for all your hard work. Now, as much as I'd like this year to only be about Virginia, Democrats have to win across the country to win the Senate, keep the House, and to win the White House. And we are so thrilled and fortunate today to have DNC Chairman Tom Perez to join us today to talk about how we're going to do exactly that. Mr. Chairman, the floor is yours.
Hello, Virginia Democrats. I'm so happy to be joining you. Although I wish I were joining you in person, I'm so happy to be joining you virtually for what I am sure will be an exciting and productive state convention. I know your state party and your chairwoman, your wonderful chairwoman, Susan Schwecker, have been hard at work putting together dozens of virtual caucuses and events over the past few months. Thank you, Susan, for your leadership. Thanks to the team for all of your hard work in the run-up to this virtual convention. You have been so resilient throughout these very, very challenging times. But saying challenging times doesn't nearly capture the difficulty that so many people are confronting at this moment. We have 3 different pandemics. This healthcare pandemic has killed over 112,000 Americans. The economic crisis has put 40 million Americans out of work. And our democracy pandemic, the senseless murder of George Floyd has exposed and laid bare the work that we have, the unfinished business, which is civil rights. We must acknowledge and continue to acknowledge that 400 years after slaves were brought to this country, civil rights remains the unfinished business of America. And this isn't simply a challenge for African Americans. This is a challenge for all Americans, making sure that America works for everyone and that we realize our true promise as a nation. What all of these pandemics have in common is they have laid bare the failure of Donald Trump. His delayed response to the coronavirus epidemic resulted in the needless loss of lives, the needless loss of jobs. Trump said he was joyous over the nation's double-digit unemployment numbers. Joyous. I don't understand that. And in the aftermath of the brutal, senseless murder of George Floyd, rather than being the consoler-in-chief, he was the divider-in-chief. That is not how leaders should act. Our nation is hurting. Our African-American communities are hurting. And we will not heal through silence, scare tactics, or the status quo. We will only heal through action and activism, through justice and progress, through leadership from the top. Joe Biden has provided that leadership at the top, and Donald Trump has been an abject failure. So long as African-American men and women cannot breathe, our democracy cannot breathe, and we cannot rest. But I continue to have hope that we can make progress. I have hope because of something my old boss, Barack Obama, said in a recent speech about these protests. As difficult as these past few weeks have been, he said, they've also been an opportunity for people to wake up to the systemic racism and violence that African Americans face every single day in this country. And increasingly, they've been an opportunity for people across the country to get involved, speak out, and organize for bold change. I share that hope that out of these crises will emerge a renewed energy, not just among Democrats, but among everyone in America to help build a better America. I've already been seeing this energy firsthand. I had the privilege of meeting and marching with some of the protesters in DC a couple weeks ago, and I was so inspired by their commitment to equality and justice. I've been inspired by the conversations I'm having every day with party leaders, candidates, activists across the country. And I'm noticing that in battleground states like Arizona, Texas, Georgia, and North Carolina, states the Democrats haven't consistently won in a while, they're starting to feel a lot like Virginia did in 2008, on the verge of flipping blue. And every time I talk to Democrats in these states, they remind me more and more of Virginia's back when Barack Obama was running. They were fired up and ready to go in Virginia back in 08, and they're fired up today. You're fired up today. And voters across all of these critical battleground states are fired up today. They've seen in these other states what you've been able to do in Virginia in 2013, in 2017, in 2018, in 2019. Look at what you've done. You've set a remarkable example for America. And everywhere across the country, we are going to apply the lessons learned in Virginia because you have been a model for other battleground states. You've controlled the governor's mansion since 2013. You won 15 House seats in 2017 and then flipped both chambers of the legislature 2 years later, putting trailblazing leaders like Eileen Filler-Corn, Louise Lucas, and Charneil Herring in leadership. You flipped 3 congressional seats in 2018, electing Abigail Spanberger, Jennifer Wexton, and Elaine Luria, and now have a majority Democratic congressional delegation for the first time in 10 years. That is spectacular. You've set the standard for what Democrats can accomplish when we organize, fight hard, and win. And when I see other states around the country following your model, it gives me great hope. It gives me great hope because Virginia is proof of just how much people stand to gain when they elect Democrats. Look what happened. Governor Northam ran on expanding Medicaid, and made it happen. Democrats ran for the General Assembly, promising meaningful gun safety legislation, and look what's happened now that you control the House and the Senate. Our congressional leaders promised progress on issues like healthcare, environmental protection, voters' rights, working rights, to be a check on the corrupt Trump administration. They are making that happen. So much more work to do, but our work has been productive. Make no mistake about it. We've got work to do in 2020. Virginia is indeed a battleground. We Republicans are going to pour millions of dollars into the Commonwealth to try to flip those congressional seats that we won in 2020. Donald Trump talks frequently about flipping Virginia. So we need to make sure we continue to be organized and show the country why Virginia is always held up as a model for up and coming swing states. That's why Virginia is part of the DNC's battleground buildup this year. The path to the White House and a majority in Congress means winning those House seats, re-electing Mark Warner, and making sure your electoral votes go to Joe Biden this November. I've known Joe Biden for a quarter century. I had the privilege of working with him when I served with Senator Kennedy on his judiciary staff in the mid-90s. And Joe Biden was the team captain of the Democrats on that committee. I had the privilege of working very closely with Vice President Biden in the Obama administration. As you know, he is a man of integrity and courage, a man of accomplishment. He spent his entire career standing up for the underdog, for the union worker fighting for a better wage, for the students marching to end gun violence, for women working to stop domestic abuse, for peaceful protesters speaking out against police misconduct. Joe Biden is a truly decent man, and we need decency back in the White House. We need to understand that America is great because America is good. And Joe Biden understands that. And Virginia Democrats will be critical to making sure we send Joe Biden to the White House. It's events like these that help make it happen. You have a strong Democratic Party, from the grassroots of local committees to Chairwoman Swecker's great leadership at the top. I have no doubt about the fact that you are all up to the task. I've spent so much time with all of you, dating back to 2017. I've been proud to partner with all of you. I'm so grateful for all the work you do. So thank you to all of your delegates for being active participants and for representing your districts with such effectiveness. Together, we can win everywhere and anywhere. What Virginia Democrats have accomplished over the past few years has shown the country the strength of the Democratic Party. And remember, our continuing unity is Donald Trump's worst nightmare. So let's move forward together. Let's win in November. Adelante. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chairman Perez. And thank you for being here. Thank you for inspiring us today, this morning, and thank you for all your hard work. Senator Elizabeth Warren has been a progressive leader even before she got to the United States Senate. Her presidential campaign truly helped shape conversation and introduce bold new ideas to our party. So we're really excited to have her here to speak with us today. Senator Warren, the floor is yours.
Hello, Democrats. I know we can't be together in person today, but I wanted to send a word of encouragement to some of the hardest working Democrats in the country. I'll get straight to the point. This is a time of tremendous crisis for our nation. Over 100,000 of our friends, family, and neighbors have died from coronavirus. Millions are unemployed and struggling to put food on the table or to pay their rent or mortgage. And across the country, people are protesting police brutality and demanding justice for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, for Ahmaud Arbery, and for so many more. The pain, the frustration, the trauma that Black people are experiencing and have experienced for generations is real. As a nation, we have some serious soul searching to do. Racial disparities persist in wealth, education, employment, housing, healthcare, and at a time when COVID-19 is disproportionately killing African Americans, and black businesses are disproportionately going under. It can feel as if this is the way things have been and always will be. But we are not without hope. The deep injustices we face are not inevitable. They were created and facilitated through racist, hateful, bigoted public policies. And that means that part of the solution can be addressed by different policies, brave, inclusive, moral public policies. And I also want to be thoughtful about the responsibility that I and others have as white Americans in this moment. The idea that communities of color alone are responsible for fighting against racism every single day is both misguided and can have dangerous consequences. We need to ask ourselves what we are doing proactively every day to dismantle racism in our communities, in our workplaces, and in our circles of influence. It is not enough to stand as an ally. We must go further and be anti-racist. At a time when racial injustice tears us apart and a global pandemic threatens our lives and our livelihoods, it is up to us to take action to heal our nation and to save our democracy. Now, none of this will be possible if we don't protect our elections. Elections are the beating heart of our democracy. And if we're going to do the important work of rooting out injustice and protecting families and communities, once we've weathered this storm, then we need to protect our elections. So here are 4 steps that I'm fighting for right now to make it easier for Americans to vote safely during this pandemic. Step 1, every American should be able to register and to vote safely and easily. End voter purges for the duration of this pandemic and require all states to offer online registration. Wisconsin and Georgia have accelerated efforts to remove hundreds of thousands of people unnecessarily from their voter rolls. This pandemic must not be used as a cover for racist voter purges. Step 2, keep voters healthy by making the process of casting a ballot easier and more accessible. Give everyone the option to vote by mail. Enhance the safety of in-person voting, including offering 30 days of early voting and extended polling hours. Step 3, fight disinformation and increase election security. Russia and China have already begun to peddle the conspiracies that we need to fight back. And step 4, give states the resources they need to administer the vote and keep poll workers safe. Protecting elections is going to cost billions, not millions. The task of healing our nation and protecting our democracy has never been more vital. This is a fight that comes to us, and we cannot afford to back down. Lives are on the line. We face an uphill battle, but I am confident that if we stand together, if we fight together, if we persist together, we will make it through this time of crisis and build a better nation. So stay safe out there, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you so much, Senator Warren. Thank you for joining us today. Now I'd like to introduce and welcome Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders ran an excellent primary campaign that brought so many new people to the party, and now he is all in to help elect Joe Biden in November. Senator Sanders, the floor is yours.
Hello, my friends in Virginia, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words, and I will be very brief. All of you know we are living in an unprecedented moment in American history. You've got a pandemic, you've got an economic collapse, and we have a president of the United States who clearly has never read the Constitution of the United States and who has very little regard for civil rights or for civil liberties. So at this moment, it seems to me we've got to focus on 2 basic issues. Number one, we all have got to come together to defeat Donald Trump and to elect Joe Biden as our president. Number two, we have also got to keep our eyes on the prize in terms of what kind of nation we want to be in the future. It's not just good enough to defeat Trump. We have got to transform America and create a government and an economy that work for all of us and not just the wealthy few. So I look forward to working with you in the months and years ahead as we get rid of an incredibly destructive, divisive president, and as we move this country in a very different direction. Thank you all very much.
Senator Sanders. Now we turn to DPVA's Voter Protection Coordinator, Jescata Jefferson. She's going to explain the voting procedure. Jescata, the floor is yours.
Greetings, everyone. I am Jescata Jefferson, the Democratic Party's Voter Protection Coordinator. Voting will begin at 1 p.m. today and close at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Results will be announced on Monday, so be sure to stay tuned in for those. This weekend, you'll be voting on national delegates, Democratic National Committee members, at-large presidential electors, and the state convention resolutions package. All state delegates should have received their unique 6-digit code along with a link to their ballot via email. If you are a state delegate and you have not received your unique code, you can email us at political@vademocrats.org. If you don't have access to the internet, you can call me on our DPVA voter hotline at 844-482-8683. Please make sure you proofread every portion of your ballot. The only way there can be an error in a Google form is if you enter incorrect information. If you vote more than once, your last vote will be the only one that is counted. Again, voting will open at 1 p.m. today and close at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Please make sure you submit your ballot by then or it will not be counted.
Thanks, Jescata, for that explanation. Appreciate it. And to all the delegates, please let DPVA staff know how best to answer any questions you might have. Delegates, thank you so much for the honor of allowing me to serve as chair of this convention. What an incredible day. Amazing speakers, an incredible group of Democrats on this call, ready to elect Joe Biden, the next president of the United States, ready to re-elect Senator Mark Warner and make progressive gains throughout the Commonwealth and our country. Thank you so much to DPVA Chairwoman Susan Swecker and her incredibly hardworking team for putting this virtual convention together. Now we look forward to November. This election will define our nation for generations, no doubt about it. We all know this is an election that no one can sit out. With 136 days of hard work, of determination, and commitment to this important cause, working together, we will reclaim the soul of this nation. So I say, wear a mask, socially distance, work hard, and let's go blue. And with that, I want to thank Madam Chairwoman for virtually passing on to me this gavel. The business of this convention is now completed. The convention will reconvene tomorrow at 1 p.m. We are now adjourned.